Welcome to Wilder Wolves Hall of Fame Mode Fandom. My name is Wilder Adams, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a trade that just went down, and a lot of information is coming left and right. And we're just going to break it down right away because I have no idea where anybody's going into. This comment right here at the top, Nick Claxton to the Chicago Bulls, not the Minnesota Timberwolves. That is one report that we are seeing right now. So here is what we know right now with this Minnesota Timberwolves trade. So we know this. Julius Randle is getting traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Minnesota, their pick 28, moved back to 33. Nick Claxton is in the deal. So this quote from Shams, okay? Timberwolves free up significant salary with the remaining 2 years of Randle's deal, giving them more flexibility to retain Ayo Dosunmu and use exceptions net to acquire a big-time small forward. Plus the first, Chicago uses part of its base talented roster, a position in need with $30 million left. So Nick Claxton is headed to the Chicago Bulls, not the Minnesota Timberwolves. And initially, when I read that trade, I was wondering if Nick Claxton, seeing the two photos, like, is he going to Minnesota? And then if that was the case, it'd be a whole can of worms. But Minnesota has made a trade, getting off of Julius Randle, from getting off their first-round pick to pick 28 to 33. So what is happening right now, guys? Looks like my original thought is Minnesota is trying to free some cap space. That is evidently what Shams is saying right now. Minnesota, they had the 28th pick in the draft. They trade 5 spots from the first round to the second round. So it's essentially salary dump. And this comment right here, salary dump for Julius Randle. It is gaining some flexibility. That is what Shams is reporting. And number one, obviously, the first thing on the surface, guys, right? This is a move toward bringing Ayo Dosunmu back to the Minnesota Timberwolves. They get off of a first-round pick. I was going to low-key, I was ready to record a draft episode tomorrow, and now I don't know if that's happening with the first-round pick. But yeah, so this is an interesting deal. First of all, I just want to say, like, when I think of giving up Julius Randle and 28 to get back to pick 33, I'm wondering if there's more details, like what the details are in the trade, what more just information we are going to get in the near future. Because right now it looks like the base, unless somebody finds it in the comments, what other factors are in this deal, this doesn't look complete to me right now. Reacting, and by the way, I realized I messed up my thumbnail, so I appreciate you guys. I'm gonna fix that. So yeah, I'm gonna fix that right away as well, guys. So let me change my thumbnail real quick, because when I first saw the trade, guys, I'm not gonna lie. I thought it said Randle to Minnesota, and then I ran to the podium. So let me fix that. I appreciate you guys for correcting that real quick. So let me fix that real quick. I'm an idiot, right? But let me fix that real quick. I thought it was Nick Claxton Minnesota trade, which would have been a whole can of worms because Rudy Gobert. That would have been a whole different question. But let me fix the title, and let me fix the title real quick as we go live, and I'm going to react immediately to your comments. So appreciate you guys for protecting me on that in the beginning of this episode as we break down this, and also we'll review the just thoughts of the deal and what it can mean in terms of flexibility, in terms of the third dimension ideas that Tim Connelly might be doing. Hopefully he's doing some 3D chess. Let me get the title all resolved real quick. Thank you guys to the Brooklyn Nets. And I got my thumbnail all fixed already. So I'm going to get that all fixed up right now. And here we go. Okay. So it's all updated now. Thank you guys all for, hopping on this episode. Now we got the thumbnail corrected, as my reading comprehension clearly not past 6th grade. I got it all fixed. So I appreciate you guys. So yeah, let's go react to what you guys are all saying. So Ben goes and he says, happy, no more Randle stress. Yeah, man. I mean, the Randle era is over, man. And as the Julius Randle time in Minnesota comes to an end, we'll definitely reflect on this episode and further in the offseason on the Julius Randle experience, because I think we all know that We all know it's not been the most smooth sailing the final 3 months. There's been a lot of documents, or not document, but just speculation and some surrounded belief that Julius Randle was frustrated being in trade talks. And it felt like watching Julius Randle, he was checked out in February. That's what it felt like. So Minnesota dealing Julius Randle, you know, it felt inevitable. And this is the trade supposedly that's happening, and I'm assuming throughout this episode we are going to continue getting information on all the factors in the Julius Randle deal. But right now it looks like a salary dump. And Holden, he says, I'm guessing no Phylon. We'll see on draft night. I don't think, my first thought is this doesn't look complete. We'll see. It looks like the Bulls, if I'm totally missing something, somebody correct me if there is something the Bulls are giving up, but it looks like the Bulls get Nick Claxton for free, which Nick Claxton's a really good player, guys. He's a really good player. So that doesn't really check out to me very much. So I'm curious if there's any other moving parts here, or if the Bulls pulled off the Jared Allen trade 2.0 when it was the Simmons, I think, Harden trade, and the Cavs jumped in and got Jared Allen. Maybe it's the 2.0 version of that. I'm not sure, but really good trade for Chicago, no doubt, just because getting a really good center who I think will be really elevated by a Josh Giddey. He's been playing on a horrible Nets team with no guard play. So, if he ended up in Minnesota, like my initial thumbnail accidentally insinuated, I think we would have had a lot of conversations about Rudy Gobert and beyond. But yeah, so we just got the 33rd pick in the draft. That's what it's saying right now. I'm not sure if there's more. I think if this is the base of the deal and you're just bringing back Ayo, that would be, disappointing. So hopefully there's some more moving factors. All right. Love that you hopped over right away. Thank you guys so much for hopping on right away. I definitely rushed here the moment I saw it. So you know what? Maybe not the most detail oriented getting on, but I see some frustration in the comments about Tim Connelly firing Tim Conman. And yeah, man, I'm just gathering my thoughts. It's a very fast trade. There's a lot of new moving parts, I'm assuming. Guys, this doesn't look done to me. I keep looking at this deal. Is this it? And if this is it, I think a lot of people in the comments are valid for saying this is brutally disappointing, trading Julius Randle for nothing and then trading 5 spots back into the second round. That would be frustrating. That would be disappointing if that's all it is. And maybe you guys can record this and segment this and show when I'm wrong in the future. But this doesn't feel done. It doesn't make sense. Chicago gets Nick Claxton for free. Is that it? No way. And we know this sometimes, trades come out and then more pieces come together as the reporters do reporting things, try to be the first to get to information. It's often a race to information more so than a race to accuracy. So we'll see what it is. But yeah, maybe throughout this show, we'll learn more about what to expect from the Julius Randle trade. Maybe one day we'll be the team to absolutely fleece somebody. Not today. It seems like we didn't get it. All right, I throw a cash to Tari Eason, F being able to dribble. Yeah, man, Minnesota, let's just have absolutely no ball handlers when we take on the Oklahoma City Thunder, when we take on the San Antonio Spurs, right? If Aaron Wiggins go for 2 second-round picks, Randall should be able to get more. Yeah, man, I totally get what you guys are saying. This looks like on the surface a massively disappointing deal, just freeing up cap space and not really doing anything else. That would be disappointing. That would be disappointing on the surface. I'm not going to lie, guys, but I don't think this is it, guys. I don't think this is it. I think Minnesota has more up their sleeve right now. We can talk tomorrow or the day after about how wrong I am if this is all Minnesota traded, but I don't think they're done. I don't think this is the asset management where you just free up money to sign Ayo. I don't know. Hopefully I'm wrong, or hopefully I'm right. Hopefully I'm right. My phone's blowing up right now about the trade. Hopefully I'm right that there's another factor in this deal, because it looks very incomplete. It just looks like incomplete information to me. The Bulls getting Claxton for free just doesn't add up to me right now. The cat trade might be horrible now. Hey, on the surface, if you're looking at basically you're trading back in the first round pick for Johan Beringer, or trading back in the first round, get to the second round and getting Dante and Beringer for Cat, that does look like a horrible deal. So I'm not fighting you guys on that, but this is significant cap relief. This is significant cap relief. I do want to highlight that because, okay, I gotta turn off my do not disturb sign, everybody. There's a lot going on right now, but Minnesota just freed up Julius Randle's around $33 million deal right now to move 5 spots back in the first round. Ayo Dosunmu has to be a part of it. Minnesota has around $195 million in current cap. They had 9 players actively on the roster, and it went down to 8. So now we're at $165 million or so. Minnesota was 6 below the luxury tax, I believe. So now Minnesota is 36, I believe, below the luxury tax at the top of my head. And they're 14. Now they're $44 million below the first apron, I think. These are the numbers on the top of my head. So Minnesota has a lot of financial flexibility relative to they did an hour ago. I think that is the silver lining in this deal at this moment of time. And obviously, I don't think this is just cap flexibility just for the sake of cap flexibility. Of course, Ayo Dosunmu, it looks like almost certain he's coming back to Minnesota. That's a positive. They had a great trade for Ayo Dosunmu at the deadline, and that's going to be an asset going forward. I'm really high on Ayo Dosunmu. It's going to be great to have him. But then I'm wondering, okay, let's say Ayo Dosunmu, let's just say he signs 4 years, 84, okay? Let's just hypothetically say that, right? He makes $21 million a year. There's still some more money to play with. And Minnesota has the Dante DiVincenzo contract, which they may or may not trade. And then there's still a lot of other big contracts on the squad. So it still looks like a very blank canvas for Minnesota. So my original thought right now is this has to be a move for another move. That's all I can think about right now. This has to be a move for another move. So now, what is that move? Are we going to be happy about that move? I'm not sure. I guess we'll have to wait and see. I'm still very pro Tim Connelly is smart, and I'm going to trust Tim Connelly until proven otherwise. I know some people aren't as high on Tim Connelly as I am, and that's okay. And if this is it and they just bring back Ayo, I get it. I would be upset about that trade too. But we'll see what happens next. So let's see what you guys are all saying. Now I got on that little spree right there in reaction to the trade. Randle tanked his value. He definitely did. If we can get Anthony Simons on a full mid-level and sign Ayo, I am juiced. There's something that perhaps the flexibility could generate for Minnesota. Could they bring in multiple free agents? And now I think if there isn't another instant move, I think studying the free agent class even more is going to be a big deal. Because when I look up right now, the free agency class of 2026 for the NBA, there's notable names on here. There's Trae Young got extended. We know about that. But then available guys, there's still LeBron James. There's CJ McCollum, Chris Middleton, Kristaps Porzingis, Andrew Wiggins. Anthony Simons is a name mentioned. Norman Powell is an unrestricted free agent. Rui Hashimura is an unrestricted free agent. Austin Reeves has a player option. Zach LaVine has a player option. There's a lot of really solid mid-level free agents that Minnesota could also pursue theoretically now with this cap flexibility. So maybe that's the scenario Minnesota is pursuing. Maybe they're confident they're going to get somebody in free agency, or this is opening up another trade. In my opinion, it's one of the two. Otherwise, it would be a bad trade, awful trade, if it's just trading back in the draft to get off of Julius Randle and the Bulls get Nick Claxton for free. That would be an ugly trade. So I think this is incomplete. This is incomplete right now, but we're going to continue gathering information throughout this episode. Did we pay to get rid of Randle? I don't get it. We at least could have gotten Dillingham back. I'm sure Chris Finch would have loved to get Dillingham back, right? Just to have him be a water boy for another year, right? So officially, Cat traded for Dante, Bates-Diop, Beringer, and 33rd. And I was, I was kind of implying this comment in terms of, if this is what it is, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. But I think for our mental health for the night, and also in trust of a general manager who's helped the team win a lot in the last handful of years, we should just assume this is for another move. Is that another major trade that is on the horizon? Maybe. Maybe. If it isn't, I think it's either a trade or free agency. I think they're positioning to get multiple players in this scenario, whether they sign that player or, more likely, in my opinion, this is leading to another trade. This isn't a done deal. There's no way that this is a done deal, and this is the story of the Timberwolves offseason. So everybody, let's whew. The trade happened, the adrenaline, it's flowing, it's on fire. I am losing my mind right now, but it's not complete yet. I don't believe it's complete yet. So now the question is, what's the next move? And are we going to know this next move this hour? Or are we going to know this next move like in the coming days? Is there another big trade coming, or is it free agency? I don't know the answer. I'm sure there's going to be more reporting and more information coming in the near future. They're already under the first apron. This doesn't move me. That first was one of their only assets left to trade, and now they blew it. Like I said, let's see what the next move is. Let's see what the next move is. I do think, like you said, Minnesota has now only a 2028 swap and a 2033 first that they can deal that we know of. That's the key here, that we know of. So what does that mean? I still truly believe there is real significance to Minnesota working out LeBaron Philon on Saturday. I don't believe that is something that we should ignore at this point in time. I think Minnesota probably, I'm just speculating, has known about this Julius Randle deal for a little bit, and there was probably logistics getting involved. So if that is true in this scenario, in this story I'm making up in my head, then what else is true? If they're bringing LeBaron Philon, maybe this is another player that Minnesota could acquire in a trade. I don't think we're done, guys. I really don't. Like, if I put the odds that this deal is what it is and Ayo Dosunmu comes back and that's the offseason, I would give it like a 5% chance. I'll give it a 5% chance. Minnesota still, I think, has a lot of roster spots to fill. I think there were only 9 spots Minnesota guaranteed had going into next year, and now it's 8 with Julius Randle gone, and maybe pick 33 that could fill the spot. If they pick 33, because we saw what happened last year at pick 31 when they had Rasheer Fleming and traded back for Rocco Zikarsky. So this is a fascinating deal. And I think we can consider all these other combos. So it could be a gap year where they take a break from massive tax payments. I don't think that's it, guys. I don't think so. I think financial flexibility is good. And before this deadline last year, they went below the luxury tax line. So I know the owners are probably loving what Tim Connelly did, getting below the luxury tax line. But I don't think at this point in time, after all the things that have added up in the last handful of months with the expectations that Minnesota has, and more importantly, what Minnesota has with Anthony Edwards, I don't think this is a conservative take a step back movement in the way that it is, let's just dump players for nothing. Could next year be a transitional year and you get some core players, maybe young players, and you reset that way, or you reshape the identity with new types of players? I can see next year being that, but I don't think they're going to sell. I don't think Minnesota is a selling team right now. So I truly believe that this is going to be incomplete until further notice. We're 50 million below the second apron. Yeah, there's flexibility now. There's flexibility, and all of these trades, guys, like when it all happens, as we all know as fans, got to kind of gather information and gather the adrenaline and gather kind of everything you can and kind of piece this deal apart. But yeah, that's the thing right now. Minnesota has saved a ton of money at this moment in time. Now the question is why? Why did Minnesota free this much money? I don't think it is to avoid taxes. I really don't. If they were going to make a run to Trae Young free agency, this would have made a lot of sense, but he re-signed with Washington. I'm not even sure if Minnesota's ever been in the discussion for Trae Young, though. I think Trae Young knew he was going to sign with Washington the moment he declined his option. And that was probably a done deal before anybody else could get into the mix. It's why Trae Young ended up in Washington and why I think they got to that moment of extension literally the day before the draft. I don't think really anybody had a shot to get Trae Young. Free agency hasn't even started yet. And I think Minnesota would have the intel to know Trae Young wouldn't be available. So I don't think it's Trae Young. I do think it's something else. Hoops, you're spamming. Oh, man. I appreciate the comments, everybody. I really appreciate the engagement. Thank you all so much for the support on Wilder Wolves. Wilder Wolves has now been out for 1 year now, and the growth of this platform has been incredible. I just so sincerely appreciate all of you guys for the support and growing this community. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to Wilder Wolves because as you can see at 9:51 p.m., we're going live immediately after the Minnesota Timberwolves' first move this offseason. And I was chilling, guys. I was doing work. I was watching Impractical Jokers in the background. I had my bulldog on my lap, and then all of a sudden my phone blows up. I misread the tweet and it said, I thought initially that Minnesota traded for Nick Claxton, which would have opened a whole new can of worms because it would have been, is Rudy Gobert getting traded next? This, I think, the fact that that's not what happened and Claxton's in Chicago, now we are going to have to piece this apart, I think, even more methodically to know what Minnesota is up to next because they're not done. I truly believe they're not done. And by the way, the fun thing about this platform is if you guys want to call me an idiot, if and when I'm wrong at times, feel free. I'm open for it. I'm an idiot a lot, so I'm open to that. So, yeah. This roster needs another creator badly, so Kyrie, Ja, Giddey, etc. Yeah, guys, absolutely. I think, and the funny thing with Chicago, and here's another part of connecting the dots here, right? Minnesota in February traded Mike Conley to the Chicago Bulls, right? In a 3-team trade that Jaden Ivey and stuff got sent to Chicago. Minnesota swapped picks with Detroit, got back to 28, and ultimately now back to 33. But this is the third time in the last few months Minnesota's been involved with Chicago. And I know Chicago has a new front office right now, so it's maybe not entirely the same relationships perhaps as it was in February. But I do find it interesting. I don't know everybody in the Chicago Bulls organization name by name. I'm not sure which relationships are connected to which people in Minnesota. But I find it really interesting that pretty much any flexibility-related move for Minnesota has turned into Chicago being involved. And I remember the Mike Conley trade, that looked like an initial dump, right? The entire deal was Minnesota saving money going back from 21 to 28 in that trade. And then Minnesota ultimately a couple days later returned back to Ayo Dosunmu after the Giannis stuff ended. So this isn't the first time Minnesota has traded with Chicago to maintain some flexibility to maneuver toward another move. Minnesota, their goal was to upgrade the roster while saving money at the deadline, and they successfully did that with Ayo Dosunmu. But I think it's fascinating that this is the second time Minnesota has made a flexibility-based move with the Chicago Bulls. And last time, it led to something else. Now, the question is, does that lead to something here? And another parallel on that, does that lead to something with Chicago? Which is where I think this comment with Josh Giddey is kind of funny. It would be kind of funny if it was Josh Giddey and it's the second straight time Minnesota trades to Chicago, gains flexibility, and takes one of their guards after the fact. I don't think Chicago is going to trade Josh Giddey, but I do think it's not a coincidence that Minnesota continues to work with Chicago and gain flexibilities in trades like these. Tim Connelly doesn't do this, in my opinion, to just sit. I don't think so. Can't wait to run it back with the squad plus Tobias Harris. Heck yeah. That would be a thrilling offseason, right? We can cry together if that's all it is this summer. That's for sure. Cat should come home. Kat, hey man, you're welcome anytime. You're welcome anytime. You're welcome in Minnesota. If things don't work out in New York with that extension, come down to Minnesota. Yeah, absolutely, guys. And yeah, thank you guys. Oh, so many comments. This is so great. This is generating so much appreciated support. Wilder man, I am listening to your latest episode right now, and I got the notification. You guys are the best. You guys are absolutely the best. Whenever the Timberwolves make a move, guys, make sure to hop on Wilder Wolves, and we're going to break these moves apart because I have a feeling this won't be the last time Minnesota will make a trade this summer. The front office must trust Beringer a lot to not take Claxton back and still save money. Yeah, I mean, I think Minnesota does have a ton of faith in Beringer. He was one of the 4 guys Minnesota reportedly viewed as darn near untouchable. So there's definitely merit to that. I think next year there's going to be opportunity for Beringer to get opportunity. And just the big question is, how much opportunity is he going to get? And what does the roster ultimately look like? Does Minnesota bring in another veteran frontcourt player at some point this offseason? Or is Beringer cemented as the number 1 big off the bench? Because another part of this trade, guys, it seems like Naz Reid is firmly a starting power forward unless anything happens. And I'm excited to see that. I truly believe Naz Reid in year 8 of his career has earned the opportunity to start in Minneapolis next to Anthony Edwards, next to Jaden McDaniels, guys. We've been talking about this for 7 years now, about Ant, Jaden, and Naz being a theoretical young trio. In Minnesota, they kept Jaden McDaniels away from the Rudy Gobert trade, ultimately needing to deal 2 more first-round picks, I believe, to get that done. And then Minnesota trades Karl-Anthony Towns to maintain flexibility to extend people, including Naz Reid. So Minnesota has made some pretty big moves in attempt to maintain these guys. And if there was never a time to see what these guys had, I think that would have been a massive disappointment and a waste of time, frankly. Like, if you were never going to give Naz Reid and Jaden McDaniels that shot to become primary basketball players on this team, why trade Karl-Anthony Towns in the first place? So I think that that is the only definitive part of this trade that I could think about. Naz Reid is seemingly going to have a bigger opportunity in Minnesota, assuming he's still here. Same for Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels, number 2 option. At this moment in time, we'll see if that changes. We'll see if that doesn't. And yeah, I think that is definitely the only thing I can say with confidence is the likely scenario right now. Because this is totally, without a doubt in my mind, a blank canvas right now. And I'm excited to see what those guys have in terms of what they can do in elevated opportunity. I think it's better to know what they have than never figure it out and then sell low on them and then have them win a championship somewhere else, like any other person who's ever touched a Minnesota Timberwolves jersey. So I'm excited about Naz Reid. I'm excited about Jaden McDaniels and all the opportunity they're going to get. And yeah, I love the vibes in the chat. I mean, it is literally just a wide range. And I appreciate all of these guys. Everybody just for being a part and giving their takes on this comment. Timberwolves screwed up, chit-chatting about Randle during the season. If he hadn't heard those rumors, he'd have balled out in the postseason. Is our dumb A fault? Why would they talk about that? I'm going to break this down to the best of my ability. I think there was a lot of talk about Julius Randle in the regular season, but also there wasn't. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that, Minnesota, whenever there was a post game and somebody made a really bad play, whether it's Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels, Julius Randle, it doesn't matter. You just knew the person who wasn't going to be discussed in the post game was Julius Randle. Julius Randle was the single most, I think, protected person in post-game press conferences on any player on the roster. And initially, I used to wonder if it's a double standard, but I truly believe Minnesota, I think Chris Finch especially, knows the personality types on his roster and knows which players he can criticize publicly and not. See which players whose egos would be most affected by public criticism. And I think Julius Randle actually didn't get a lot of criticism by the team openly because they knew Julius Randle wouldn't respond to that well. And we definitely verified that because he was in trade rumors, guys. He wasn't even traded in February, yet he still seemingly just lost interest in the last part of the season. His level of engagement and consistency past February was significantly worse than to start the season. And there's been a lot of conversations about the quote-unquote moodiness with the Minnesota Timberwolves. And there's been conversations about the locker room chemistry. And Rudy Gobert made a post-game press conference comment about certain players on the team not getting criticism like other players do. And you connect all that together, and it looks like Julius Randle's part of that. So I do think Minnesota, honestly, probably kept it as quiet publicly as you could. And there's been a lot of outside noise, and Minnesota's not wrong for, selling Julius Randle in hopes of getting Giannis in some massive trade. Obviously, based on this deal on the surface, if you trade Randle for nothing minus 5 picks, it doesn't look like you would have been competitive in the Giannis conversation. But, like I said, I think there's another move coming. But still, I don't think Minnesota ruined their reputation or ruined their relationship with Randle. I think it's a two-way street. As long as you're on the team and as long as you're on a multi-year deal and you didn't get traded, like, you shouldn't let that morale affect you that much. And I personally thought it did from watching from the stands like all of us did. So, Julius Randle, I don't want to make this episode just only a, shit on Julius Randle episode. I don't think that's fully fair. I mean, he did go to the conference finals with Minnesota. I thought he was a real all-star caliber player the first half of the season. But ultimately, a lot of the stuff that New York fans said about Julius Randle, some of the early career stuff in LA, etc., the narrative about Julius Randle, it remained consistent. I mean, just another situation where it was an ugly ending in Minnesota. He didn't show up to the end of season interviews, and it wasn't a pretty ending. And for Randle, it's not been a pretty ending in multiple stops. So that's unfortunate, and he's a good player. I think it's interesting that the Nets made this trade. And I joked and I speculated early in the offseason that Julius Randle going to Brooklyn is more possible than people think, because with the new lottery odds, it makes more sense to be medium bad than terrible. So a guy like Julius Randle, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Josh Giddey, those type of players who can't be a number one on a great team, but are good enough to win you some games, those guys would have more value to bad teams. And I think this trade is an example of that. And I think if you're the Nets, you're like, this is a great deal. I move up in the first round. I get a player who's better than Nicholas Claxton, in my opinion. And you get a guy who can help you score and be the 6th worst team in the league rather than the 3rd worst team in the league, right? So Julius Randle as a floor raiser, I think, is his best value, and that's what's happening in Brooklyn. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Thanks for handling my spiraling out accordingly. I hope we have some big moves unloading him. Hey, I appreciate you for watching, man. I feel like I'm trying to manage my emotions right now, man. It's all of us, It's going to be fascinating to see what happens next. But like I said, guys, if this is what happens in 3 days from now, or let's just say 10 days from now, after free agency, whatever, if we know with certainty that this is the move that Minnesota made this offseason, everybody has the right to be incredibly frustrated with how much talk there's been about Minnesota being aggressive, upgrading the roster. Shams earlier today talked about Minnesota being aggressive, upgrading their roster, knowing they need to be in the conversation at the top tier. With all that conversation with top tier credibility reporters and, Minnesota always having a expectation to contend every single year, if this is the move, that freaking sucks. That freaking sucks. I'm with you on that. But let's just wait on what's next. I don't believe the Minnesota Timberwolves are done right here. So what is that move? What is that move? And we are going to know more about, I think, the little nuances on this trade. And right in the most convenient time of the day, my phone is dying. So if there's any updates on the information relating to the trade that is reported on Twitter, feel free to comment, because I am super happy to hear everything. And here is one, Steven Sways. We have a $33 million trade exception, according to Bobby Marks. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And you usually don't let $33 million trade exceptions expire. So, with a very strong possibility, they're going to exploit that $33 million trade exception. What does that mean? Is Minnesota still in some crazy world in the Giannis conversation? It looks like an outside shot. I don't know. I still find it really odd that Minnesota was mentioned by Ramona Shelburne yesterday as a finalist, and Sham said there's a mysterious third team that could. I think this is true. If a troll account completely manipulated me, let me know. But I think I saw a tweet that Shams said there's a third team that the Bucks are comfortable taking an offer from. So is Minnesota trying like heck to get a star like that? I think that's the outlier, not most likely scenario, but I still say never with Minnesota. But I also think this is still a move for another move, regardless of the magnitude of the player. So, yeah, that $33 million trade exception is a big deal. And I appreciate you for adding that information to the trade. Y'all, this is the right trade. We save $33 million and get for a favorable pick at 33 with the new CBA. At minimum, this guarantees Ayo resigning using the full MLE and the $6.6 million biannual. Yep, that's what happens when Minnesota was 6 off of the tax and I believe 14 off of the first apron and I think 26 below the second apron. I believe that's what the number was because Bobby Marks, when he brought the graphic on Wilder Wolves in the episode the other week, Minnesota was at around 195 million. I believe the tax is 201. I believe the first apron is around 209 and the second apron is 221. So I think those are the numbers. So if we are at around that 195 million, then Minnesota just got off of 33 million, which is 162 million, which means you're off of 39 million of the tax and you're also 47 off the first apron and around 59 million off the second apron if the math in my head's proper. So that is an approximate look at the cap situation that Bobby Marks helped educate me on this episode of Wilder Wolves that we recorded a couple weeks. And by the way, if you guys want to watch that before another move happens, I had an episode with Bobby Marks around 2 weeks ago now, and we talked about the Timberwolves in an offseason preview. So make sure to check it out, and thank you guys for all the support. Gives them money to give Ayo 20 a year, plus they'll have another $30 million for another player. Yep, absolutely. That's going to be fascinating to watch. It's going to be really fascinating to see how much Ayo signs for. He's going to be a $20 million player. I think most Timberwolves fans are pro Ayo. I know there's some who aren't, and he's not a perfect analytical player, and he had a streaky second round, we could say at the bare minimum. So I think it's fair to question, Ayo Dosunmu in those ways. But guys, I think he's a good player. I think he's a really good player. And I think in a winning environment, we're going to continue to see his ascension, as he's got size, he could shoot, he's so quick, he's got feel, he plays hard. I mean, he's got all the things of a really good starting guard in the NBA. So I'm still in on Ayo Dosunmu. And this trade, the two most guaranteed things, in my opinion, are Ayo Dosunmu is likely coming back and Reid is likely getting an elevated role. Those are my two biggest takeaways right now. And my third and most important takeaway is this is a deal for another deal right now. So final on trade off the table? I don't think so. I'm not sure. Who knows? But I don't think this trade is connected with why Minnesota worked out Ayo. And I get why people would think that because, Minnesota would have traded up from 28 to 16, which is very logical, and they traded back instead of up. But if you're making a big trade or you're dealing another player, maybe you could still get a first-round pick in the mix. There's a lot of teams with multiple firsts in the middle of the first round, whether it's Oklahoma City, whether it's Charlotte. Who's another team that has multiple? Memphis has a mid-first-round pick, and they have the third pick in the draft. So there's multiple teams that might want to get off of a first-round pick. The Oklahoma City Thunder especially, they might not have the money to pay 2 first-round picks. I think the Aaron Wiggins trade saved them a lot of money, but I don't think they're still in a comfortable position to draft 2 guys, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's still possibilities. And if this move is just a move for another move, maybe that move presents you a first-round pick, and they draft whoever they want, whether that is a LeBaron Philon. So that's kind of my thought on that. So you can see Dante get traded for a larger contract, right? I'm not ruling anything out, man. I can't rule anything out right now. Frankly, I didn't think Julius Randle would get traded for nothing. So I guess never say never. And I think Tim Connelly has a strategy. I think he has a plan. And that next episode, guys, whatever it is, man, if it's 2 a.m, man, I'm still going live on this, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to be so sleep deprived together, and it's going to be a blast. So that's for sure. I guess nobody wanted Julius Randle, clearly, right? I mean, it doesn't look like it. The Nets got him for free. So good for them. I mean, I'm going to correct that. Randle was basically traded for Nicholas Claxton and pick 28. So in that scenario, Nicholas Claxton and 28 for Randle seems like fair value because I think Nick Claxton is a good player still. The teams that got nothing in the deal is just Minnesota, and the Bulls got Nick Claxton for free. So Minnesota valued the cap flexibility, and I think ultimately, because I see a lot of people talking about the framework of the cap trade in hindsight, I think there's going to be a different framework in hindsight following this deal. We'll have a better idea of what the Julius Randle trade was if they make another move, if and likely when they make the next move. Good riddance. My wishes come true. I think you're absolutely fair for that. I was ready for Randle to go. I'm not going to lie. I was ready after that second round. After he dropped 3 points in Game 6 against the San Antonio Spurs, I was 1,000% ready to say goodbye to Julius Randle. So, you know what? It's time. The Julius Randle era is over in Minnesota, and it was a very up and down era in Minnesota. It was the first half of his career in Minnesota, the first half of his first season, that was really ugly. And then the second half of that season, Minnesota, they went 27-4 with Julius Randle. No, 17-4 with Julius Randle to finish the season. And they made to the Western Conference Finals, and Randle seemingly bought into a secondary, star playmaking role next to Ant. So that was the positive. This year was the opposite, where Minnesota started the year 27-14. Julius Randle looked like a fringe all-star prospect. And then the second half of the year, he fell apart after the Giannis trade, and the playoffs were ugly, particularly against the Spurs. So I feel like the first year, Julius Randle, and the second year were up and down for opposite reasons. So I think the best we could say about Julius Randle, we made the conference finals with him, but also it was incredibly inconsistent from start to finish. As a diehard Knicks fan, all I have to say is thank you for Cat. You're welcome. You're welcome. I saw an analogy on ESPN that Minnesota dates, and then the next team that gets our player is the person they marry. So, you know what? We are the toxic ex. That's what we are right now. So, you know what? When in doubt, guys, if Minnesota was crazy enough to trade Jaden or Reid, if I'm an NBA team, I am running to the podium for them because that almost guarantees a championship historically. So, ugh. Yeah, unless you're trading something really good to get high enough to get Philon. Hey, guys, what is that deal? Who knows? Does Minnesota find a way to get into the Ja Morant mix? Is Minnesota trying to give the Grizzlies flexibility? Maybe this might sound funny, maybe it's Dante and something for Ja Morant and 16, and the Grizzlies save $33 million. Maybe Minnesota is trying to get this flexibility to give that flexibility to another team that prioritizes that flexibility if they choose to get off of a contract. Ja Morant, I think, is making $42 million. So this is 33. So in that scenario, right, it's pretty clean framework. That's just an example, just spitballing right here. But maybe now Minnesota is able to get Dante Dante for Ja in 16 or something. And then Minnesota gives the Grizzlies a ton of save money, like $33 million in save money, or 31 with Dante's contract. So maybe it's something like that. Maybe that's what Tim Connelly's cooking too. And that could apply to other big players. Maybe some of these teams who have stars who don't have a lot of value, but they have more value than trading a bad contract for bad contract. Maybe these type of teams, they prefer the flexibility, especially if you're a rebuilding team. And Minnesota is trying to get that flexibility to pull that move off. Maybe that's what it is, right? Right? Tim Connelly gets paid 8 figures, and Tim Connelly has ownership. So that's the type of creativity he should be thinking with. And I'm guessing he is. Why 28? Should have gotten pick 6 from Brooklyn. Hey, if they were able to trade Randle for pick 6, I would have kissed the floor. I would have bought a Brooklyn Nets jersey. I would have maybe fly to New York tonight to get to Brooklyn and go to the draft. And I would probably shake whoever runs the Brooklyn Nets right now's hand. That's what I would do if they traded pick 6. But you know what? We can only dream, right? Is Giannis a thing now? I don't know. I don't know, guys. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. There's definitely, in my opinion, another move coming with this trade. That's my opinion. I'm very confident in it. I'm like an 8.5. I'm like an 8.5 out of 10 confident that this Julius Randle trade means another big trade is coming. Like an individual in the comment who gave the $33 million exception information, since I can't find that on my dead phone. Thank you, by the way, man, for doing that. It might be another move. It might be another move. So I don't think this is done. I don't think this is done. Is Naz Reid just overpaid and is hurting the team a little? Or is Naz Reid overpaid and is hurting the team a little? Nah, I don't think so yet. I think Naz Reid got his self back on track in the playoffs, and I think he's been battling injuries. I don't think we've seen the best version of Naz Reid. One opportunity, number 2, I think it was a intense season for Naz Reid personally and just health-wise. So I still think Naz Reid deserves grace, and $25 million, in my opinion, a year, not a terrible contract. The $33 million trade exception is good for like 3 years, right? If someone could verify that, I would appreciate that. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I did sports business classroom last year in Vegas, and I have a course on all of the cap stuff and how it works in this new second apron league, this new CBA, and I haven't finished it yet. So I gotta lock in and work hard and learn these things again, because I have a pretty basic understanding of the CBA, and I think I know what the second apron does and the first apron does, but the exceptions, I am an absolute amateur when it comes to. So if somebody could verify that information, which Bobby Marks talked about, please do so. That'd be really appreciated. I know you've been probably talking about this the whole time, but surely the trade isn't done. There has to be more to this. Exactly. That's been my entire takeaway this episode. And I'm excited for what that next move is. I don't know what it is, but I'm pretty confident something significant's happening. I'm pretty confident. I'm like I said, 8.5 out of 10. This means something else is happening. And the one thing we can say about this is the confidence of bringing back Ayo is restored. So that's nice. Yeah, I think they could still trade up in this draft. I still believe that. So Rudy going to get dumped for some picks and we just build a team in free agency? Who knows? I think that's an interesting thought. If Minnesota wants to reset the timeline of the roster and kind of pivot toward Ant, Jaden, and Naz being the new Cat D'Lo. I don't want them to be Cat and D'Lo. I'm not saying that, but in terms of resetting the timeline where those guys are the in-prime veterans and you have a new timeline of young players developing in the background, which Ant, Jaden, and Naz were at one point. Maybe. I mean, I still think I don't see a world where Minnesota doesn't get aggressive in some capacity. I don't think they're going to do like a mini rebuild in the Anthony Edwards era. I truly believe every single year they have Anthony Edwards, they're going to be aggressive enough with the intention to win. Maybe they have like a transition year where it's like the Celtics and they make the playoffs and they lose the first round and they repivot the year after and they trade for Giannis. That's what it looks like the Boston Celtics are going to do. So whatever the equivalent of that is for Minnesota, maybe that happens in the future someday. So my face is really red, guys. It's really red. Oh my goodness, I look like a tomato. Yeah, you could tell that this trade is firing me up and internally. It's kind of crazy. I love Ayo, but it's not what we need. I think if you can have athletic players who could shoot, pass, play in transition, and handle the ball and shoot nearly 50, 40, 90, I think a player who dropped 43 in a playoff game before he got hurt, I personally think that's valuable. I know it wasn't perfect. I know the second round wasn't great other than a little stint in game 4, but I still think Ayo Dosunmu healthy is a really darn good basketball player, and I think he's going to do really good things. Randle to Nets in our 28 class in the Bulls. Wolves getting Nets 33 pick. That's it. The end. No, it's not. It's not the end, guys. It's not the end. Julius, man. Y'all just traded Randle at his absolute lowest trade value. That was an awful move unless something else big happens. Y'all took another major L. Seems like the ownership went cheap again. I don't think that's a conclusion we can reach yet. I don't. If you want to reach that conclusion in a week or two and nothing absolutely happens, I think that's valid. I do. You can criticize the ownership in that scenario, the ownership that went below the first apron at this trade deadline this year. If you want to connect those dots, I'm not going to fight you on that, but I don't believe that's what's happening, and I think there's another move happening. And, I mean, Julius Randle at his lowest trade value, I mean, was his trade value really getting that much higher? Like, was it really? I'm not sure, especially with how it was seeming in Minnesota. He didn't seem happy in Minnesota at the end. So I think Minnesota has a plan with this deal. Imagine how many rings Wolves get once they join the Eastern Conference. I'm down. 2028, guys. 2028 when they go to the Eastern Conference and the Seattle Supersonics and the Las Vegas somethings are in the league. That's going to be great. That's going to be great. What free agent would be available for the cap space we have? I mean, it depends. I mean, notable names that we have in the free agency pool, there is, I'm just going to list some names. So CJ McCollum just came back to the Atlanta Hawks on a 1-year, $21 million deal. Trae Young just signed with the Washington Wizards on a 5-year or a 4-year deal worth over $210 million. But there's guys like Kristaps Porzingis, who I don't foresee. Tobias Harris is available. Anthony Simons, John Collins, Norman Powell, who just made an all-star game last year. Colin Sexton, Rui Hashimura. Austin Reeves has a player option. Kobe White's available. I'm just looking up and down the roster. And Ayo Dosunmu's available. So those are all the notable names that I'm seeing when I'm looking up the free agent class this year. So someone commented maybe Minnesota is going to get Anthony Simons out of this, and technically they'll have another good guard next to Ant. I've said this throughout the offseason. If Minnesota decides to lean into Ant and Jaden and Naz in a transitional phase, see what you have with Jaden and Naz Reid, you play Berringer more, and then you get multiple guards who can shoot, dribble, and pass next to Anthony Edwards to open the floor significantly more. That combined with Naz Reid spacing the floor rather than Julius Randle. If Minnesota does that, I wouldn't be upset this offseason. So I would be very lukewarm if they got an Anthony Simons, but technically that would be a part of that idea of getting another guard who can really space the floor and be dynamic with the ball in their hands to make life easier for Ant and Naz and truly see what Jaden and Naz Reid have in elevated roles. I think that is definitely something, but that's not the only way they could do this. They could still accomplish that by another trade, whether they get a Ja, whether they get a Derek White, whether they get a Jalen Suggs, right? We can go top to bottom. Emmanuel Quickley, right? So I still think there's a very open canvas, a very blank canvas, I should say, on what Minnesota could still do this offseason. Does this get Minnesota under the luxury tax 25-26 season since it's below July 1st? I think Minnesota was already below the luxury tax, if I'm not mistaken. So I think they're fine there regardless. I do think this is a flexibility move, though. And at the bare minimum, if nothing happens, they're going to have a lot more cap space than initially thought. So we'll see what happens with what they do with that flexibility. So we're going to move Gobert and trade up for Phylon. I do want to say one thing about the LeBaron and Phylon thing, because clearly Minnesota has interest. They wouldn't work him out 3 days before the draft if that wasn't true. Simultaneously, LeBaron Phylon's agent would have Phylon work out in Minnesota if he didn't believe there was a real shot Minnesota could get a draft pick in the range LeBaron Phylon will be in. And I would guess his camp expects him to go top 15 in this draft. So I think all those things are true. So how does that happen? Who knows? But the other point I want to make with that is LeBaron Phylon posted a story the night before the workout in Minneapolis, which he deleted a couple hours later. And I think that opened a can of worms reporting that he worked out in Minneapolis because he leaked it. LeBaron Phylon leaked it. So who knows if LeBaron Phylon is the only guy Minnesota worked out this weekend? It could have been more guys. I have no idea. I'm assuming there's other guys, but we know about the LeBaron Phylon thing for sure because he made a target on himself also. 2 a.m. will be perfect for me. Yep, that's just when trades happen. I remember in 2022 when Kevin Durant, when I lived in Phoenix in college, when I went to ASU, Kevin Durant got traded to the Phoenix Suns like middle of the night. I think it was 2 a.m. Central Time, near midnight Pacific Time. And that was nuts. That was nuts. That's just what happens in the NBA. And who knows, maybe on this episode, they'll make another trade. I would not rule it out. What happens in the NBA? And who knows, maybe. Oh, I accidentally went live on my own video on my phone. It had to be Moro Julius in the locker room to boot him for nothing. I do think there was something there. I mean, Naz Reid literally said at the end of the season, there was moodiness. There was moodiness. And that's not only Julius Randle, because if anybody's ever followed this team the last 6 years, this team goes very hot and cold. They do. Not only on the court, but it just seemed intangibly that's what happened. So it's not just Julius Randle, but Randle was clearly a symptom of it. So there's something happening there. But I'm seeing in the comments a lot that it's widely expected that Minnesota, or widely speculated that Minnesota could trade Gobert up in the draft. I'm hearing those thoughts in the comments. But I don't know. I kind of feel like now that we know about this flexibility that Minnesota has obtained in this trade, maybe this makes Gobert more safe and they have more money to play with for another deal while keeping Gobert. We've talked about if you trade Gobert, regardless of what decision you make this summer, it's a risk, but it's especially a risk if you trade Rudy Gobert with what he makes or what he means to the fragment of the defense. So, or to the fabric of the defense. I'm sorry, guys. It's late. I can't even talk right now. The Wolves need point guards. Get Fox. I do think they're probably going to get some sort of guard. I really do. And thank you guys all so much for the comments. I'm realizing some of these comments I'm reading are like 15 minutes old. So I appreciate you guys for being so active. And here's a Rudy Gobert trade. Trade Rudy and a 33rd pick to Charlotte for the 14th and 18th pick. I feel like you can get more for Rudy Gobert. I feel like you can. So I don't know. I think Rudy is an asset still. I think Rudy Gobert making first-team All-NBA or All-Defense, being a damn near Greek god physically and never getting hurt and just being this freak defender, I still think that has a lot of value, especially if you're trading him to the Eastern Conference where he doesn't have to worry about Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama. I think there is a lot of value to Rudy Gobert still. Yeah, I think a lot of us agree there's definitely something potentially there in that locker room, but it's hard to say exactly the source of it in terms of, like I said earlier, this team has always been kind of hot and cold in the locker room, but Julius Randle, I think recently especially has been very evidently a part of that. And I didn't like how he conducted himself at times at the end of the season. It looked like he gave up in the playoffs. And not doing an exit interview, that was a horrible look. I was at the exit interviews at Mayo Clinic when all the players who didn't review the night before, they're supposed to talk, didn't happen. So that wasn't a great look, in my opinion, relating to Julius. And it was clear, it was if not when he was going to get traded. And here we are. Miles Turner. Here's the thing with the Giannis thing, by the way. I think the team that trades for Giannis is going to take on one of those three big contracts: Kyle Kuzma, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Bobby Portis. Or no, Bobby Portis, Miles Turner, or Kyle Kuzma. One of those three contracts. So if Minnesota somehow got Giannis, which it doesn't look likely, but in some world they did, maybe they would have to take on a Miles Turner contract too. Draft day is going to be nuts. I totally agree with this comment. Draft day is going to be crazy, I'm guessing. I'm expecting so much movement. The Giannis trade is obvious, but clearly there's other moves being built up for other moves. So another example, by the way, of Minnesota making random trades for other deals. Do you guys remember when Jeff Teague got traded to the Orlando Magic, I think? Or was it to the Atlanta Hawks? I think it was Jeff Teague to the Hawks for Allen Crabbe. Do you guys remember that? And everybody in my school was talking about that, saying Allen Crabbe is not better than Jeff Teague. What is Minnesota doing? And ultimately, that was a part of Minnesota building up the leverage, building up the flexibility to acquire D'Angelo Russell. So that was another move leading to another move. So we have a lot of examples of weird trades over the years that Minnesota has made that has led to other deals. Now, I'm hoping it turns out better than the D'Angelo Russell trade, but we'll see. We'll see. Bigger move loading. I totally agree, man. I'm so excited. And that $33 million trade exception, I think, is going to have some significance, whether it's a star, whether it's Giannis, whether it's Ja Morant, whether it's somebody like that. I'm not sure what Tim Connelly's cooking, but I'm sure it's good. I know he's cooking something. I can smell it in the kitchen right now, but we'll see what it is. I'm excited. Initially, I thought, for those who are watching right now, an hour of the show, thank you all so much for watching. In the beginning of the show, I was a total idiot, and I first thought it said that Nicholas Claxton got traded to Minnesota. And then my brain went crazy because I'm wondering, is the Rudy Gobert trade happening next? And I rushed. I made a thumbnail saying Claxton to Minnesota and all these things. And 2 minutes later, people were like, dude, Claxton didn't get traded to Minnesota. And I'm like, oh, shoot. There's some good things about being first, but also, obviously, the detail orientation wasn't all the way there. So corrected everything. And I guess now that I'm thinking about this trade, and now that we've been talking about this for the last hour, now I'm getting more interested in what's happening next, because this feels like another trade is on the horizon. That's what it feels like, in my opinion. At the bare minimum, they'll sign somebody else in free agency who Minnesota wouldn't have been able to afford 2 hours ago. But I do think with this $33 million trade exception, another move's on the horizon. We should not have kept Cat. We should have traded Randle sooner and not drafted Dillingham and empowered Jaden and Nas earlier. Yeah, I think the only thing I would say for Minnesota, if they were going to empower Jaden and Nas, I think they should have earlier. I agree. We were in the beginning of year 5 with Jaden McDaniels, and we were heavily questioning if he's the guy. He had a terrible start of his 5th year, and he was still being used only on the corner from 3 and point of attack. He was not being used enough offensively. And, there's faith lost almost. And then that January, early 2025, he really started taking that leap as a freaking awesome core player. And I say that because Minnesota should have enabled Jaden McDaniels earlier than they did, in my opinion. And that goes for Naz Reid. Year 8, now we're seeing what Naz Reid has. I don't think Naz Reid is going on the bench if he's in Minnesota, assuming he's in Minnesota. So if you're going to lean into Jaden and Naz, I think in hindsight, yeah, like I wish they did it earlier. But Minnesota has had a lot of playoff success, so I'm not going to nitpick because I grew up not seeing my first playoff appearance for Minnesota until high school. And the technical first time Minnesota made a playoff run was when they made the conference finals when I was born. So it's just, you know what? I'm just appreciating the present. That's all I'm doing right now. Hot take, do you think TSJ should start next year and then get Ja? That would be very, very, very athletic backcourt. It would be So TSJ, I would be shocked if he starts. And I do want to see kind of a gradual elevation for him as long as he's in Minnesota, see what he has with the ball in his hands off the bench, and see where we can go from there. I still lean that direction. You know, it would be what, Ja, TSJ, McDaniels, Ant, Gobert. So is Naz on the bench again? There's that other question in that scenario. Is Ja on the team? Is he on the bench? Because I don't see how Minnesota doesn't start Jaden, Ant, and Naz together next year. So that's my only rebuttal to that. If Nets were the only team willing to take him, it was a salary dump to get Ayo extended. That's huge. I don't think Randle's value was there anymore. Move back 4 spots to dump him. Heck yeah. Yeah, I think for the Nets, they got a guy who probably didn't have the demand we wanted. I think Minnesota is happy about that flexibility. And knowing what Tim Connelly does historically, I would be surprised if this means he doesn't do something with that flexibility, with how historically aggressive he is. So we'll see what Tim Connelly does next. But I do think that they're very pleased with the flexibility they gained to probably help them accomplish another move. How do they not acquire Claxton? I thought for sure Rudy got replaced with them. I did too. That's why I made my stupid thumbnail that said Nick Claxton in Minnesota. So it happens, right? John K. just now. Wolves have not been in the Ja Morant mix. The decision was made to look elsewhere for backcourt help. Yep. So maybe Ja Morant isn't the solution, but it does seem like there's going to be a move for a guard to come to Minnesota. Who is that guard? We will see. There's a lot of pros and cons, more cons than pros with Ja Morant, in my opinion. He's a big risk physically and culturally. So, and fit-wise on the basketball court. So there's a lot of reasons to not be a believer in Ja Morant. So if they don't go that route, there's a lot of reason for that. Real Sports, I got to do my homework on him. Is he the guy from the Hawks? Is that who he is? Yeah, is he the player from the Atlanta Hawks? I think we'll know more information soon. Is he a credible source? I know that's the type of player who wouldn't be in the trade or wouldn't be a big part of a Shams story in the trade initially. So if someone can verify if Gay got to the Timberwolves, let me know. Trade for Evan Mobley. If Minnesota got Evan Mobley, I would literally do backflips into a lake. That would be crazy. I have no idea how Minnesota would accomplish that. That almost feels impossible. So I don't know how that would happen, but if they got Evan Mobley, that would be lit. That is definitely a pipe dream. Trade for Kessler, this comment says. Would that be funny if this all leads to Walker Kessler extensions? That would be pretty epic. You trade Rudy Gobert and then got Kessler and you act like nothing ever happened. This comment, Tim Connelly knows what's going on. There could be an ace-up Tim sleeves yet on this trade. There could be something else, sure, but this isn't the only move the Wolves make. Absolutely agree. I don't think this is the only move. Minnesota won't make moves flexibility related in the sake of flexibility. I think this is to be aggressive in another area. As somebody said, John K. recently reported, this is a deal to look for a guard elsewhere, it looks like. They dropped 5 picks back to dump Randle, and Claxton was basically salary dumped. By the way, shout out to Chicago. If you got Nicholas Claxton for free, that is an insane bargain. That is an insane deal because he is such a good player. And I always felt like he got underrated because he was in a situation in Brooklyn the last couple years where they only had the worst guard play in the league. And his guards were Nolan Traore and Yegor Zemin and all these guys. I mean, he's going to have a massive upgrade playing off of Josh Giddey's playmaking gravity. Okay, so we got Mohamed Gay on the trade. I don't know much about him if he isn't the player from Atlanta. I know there's been a lot of trades, speculations, and tweets, so I might have lost track of small trades, perhaps. I know the Knicks signed their 51st pick in the draft last year to a $10 million deal. So that's all I really know outside of Giannis and Timberwolves stuff right now. So I got to do my homework on this player, and we could talk about him more in the near future. You see the front office cat that trade, or sorry, you see the front office traded Cat, and now he has a ring. Yes, yep, I'm aware. I'm aware. I think we're all aware. And this comment cracks me up. They sent Julius where he wanted to. I mean, Julius Randle does seem like the type of player who would love to get his 27 points per game and win 29 games. So congratulations, Julius Randle. If they end up with Giannis after trading Jaden and Nas, I'm not going to be happier. Yeah, I would be very much in crossroads. I would be very torn on that deal if they got Giannis and traded Jaden and Nas, because I've talked about it in the past. Minnesota, a lot of this is about protecting Anthony Edwards, right? So if it's about protecting Anthony Edwards in Minnesota, assuring that he stays there as long as he can in his career, would you not want to make a move that is competitive yet maintains flexibility long-term, right? Giannis Antetokounmpo is the antithesis of that. It is an all-in move right now, and you're almost assuring yourself to have a roster of nothing in 4 years. And if that's the case, then hypothetically, Anthony Edwards could be leaving regardless in that scenario. So that's where I'm anti-Giannis. Of course, if Minnesota gets a ring and they get Ant and Giannis with a ring, we can have those conversations when we get there. Me personally, I don't talk about Minnesota and championships until we get there. So I do think that there is real risk in that front trading for Giannis because it could upper the chances of Anthony Edwards leaving in around age 31, age 30, age 29, in that range. I know you shouldn't be thinking in fear in that front, and maybe Ant leaves or who knows what happens in 5 years. But I wouldn't think like that if I'm Minnesota. I would think about making moves to help him keep winning while also keeping, a window open past his age 29 season. We are moving up or trading for a huge player. Possibly, man. I think that's very possible. They should have gotten Sexton or somebody in return. If this is for another player in a different trade who is much better than Colin Sexton, I would say not yet. Not yet. It'll likely be a sign and trade, this comment says. Duran, Reeves, Watson, all potential options. Austin Reeves would be an interesting player. I like Austin Reeves a lot. I do think that Austin Reeves in a secondary role, there's a ceiling there, just because I question athletically and physically if he can hold up for a full playoff run with higher responsibility. When he was young and he was more of a six-man type, he was incredible in the playoffs. And the moment he elevated into a tertiary player, he's been battling injuries. Like this year, like last year. We played an injured Austin Reeves in the playoffs last year. So Austin Reeves healthy is a really good player. But Austin Reeves in a secondary role, tertiary role, I question how he physically holds up with that responsibility. I honestly don't think Wilder knows what he is talking about. You know what? Sometimes I don't think so either. There's 100% chance there's another trade with that $33 million TPE. No way we'd do any sort of mini rebuild if Ant is already questioning the roster. Yeah, that would be my first instinct. I just don't think Anthony Edwards, it's a good look after what happened this season with Cat winning a title, with the antics that were there at the end of the season with the roster, with Ant implying perhaps he doesn't think the roster has enough for Minnesota to do less. I just don't believe that's in Tim Connelly's nature. So I say we see. We will see. Any idea how Bird works? Like we could sign Ayo with much lower cap hit or insider trade for another big piece. Yeah, with bird rights, you can sign somebody over the cap. So that's the big benefit. And I also think like the year-to-year increase salary-wise is a little better also in bird rights. Derek White would be good on the Wolves. Yeah, he would be a good player on the Wolves. Unfortunately, the Celtics are rebuffing the trades right now. And if they do get Giannis, I wonder why would they trade Derek White in that case? Because he's the perfect type of player next to Giannis. We saw how amazing Drew Holiday was next to Giannis in 2021, and Derek White provides some similarities in that aspect. So I don't think that White's available personally, but he would be a great fit. And I think he would get a lot out of Jaden McDaniels, especially because his on-ball pressure would allow Jaden McDaniels to roam, which I think would have Jaden unlock what he can do as a roaming defender, which also additionally would give him more energy offensively to take that leap that we all hope he can take. Yeah, Dante's at a little over $12 million a year, I believe. So that's the contract for next year. And yeah, this comment, White or Suggs would work very well. Yeah, for the reason I mentioned, man, right? I mean, if you can get great point of attack defenders on the perimeter, it helps Jaden a lot. And I think both guys are really good cultural fits in this locker room. So you can talk me into those guys. Jalen Suggs has a lot of injury questions, and he's on a bad contract, and the shooting is up and down. So there's questions, but I think in those areas, there's definitely benefit. Damn, so Randle is a journeyman now. I mean, we always get those lefty journeymen, right? We got D'Angelo Russell. We got Julius Randle. So, yeah, I guess so. What is this? It's his first, second, fifth team. It's his fifth team. That's crazy. Randle and Porter Jr., that is a good big two. Yeah, man, that is going to be a lot of buckets. It's not going to be the prettiest at times, but it's going to be a crap load of buckets. I do believe that. And we are about an hour 18 into this video. And yeah, guys, it's going to be very fascinating. I see this comment. Do you have a call-in link? How about this, guys? I would love to get fans on the show and we could talk about the trade for a little bit. So this is what I'm going to do. Can I do this? I think I can do this. I can share this link into the comments, okay? And okay, I just put the StreamYard link, guys. So the way that works is you go to this link, and this can get you right on Wilder Wolves podcast, and you guys could talk about the trade. We can get a couple people on the show. That is a fun idea. I appreciate that. So, let me see. So yeah, there's a link for everybody to get on the show. Oh my goodness, guys. People are commenting, Wilder, Ayo just signed 5 years, 112. Oh man, guys. Thanks for updating me, guys. Ayo Dosunmu was on 5 years, 112. Could they sign him that before free agency? Because I thought initially, Ayo Dosunmu, he was only eligible for 3 years, $52 million, wasn't he? Let me see. Let me update this timeline. As I was telling you guys, my phone died at the worst time possible. So that's what happened. I wonder if he intends to sign this post July 1st. With 5 years, 112. That's a big contract, man. That's a big contract. That's $22.4 million a year. It's a little behind Reid. It's behind Jaden McDaniels, but it's a good deal. Thank you guys for updating me on that. All right, so we got a couple people on the show who are in line. I love Kingston Flemings. I'm going to get you on momentarily. And okay, guys, so there's more trades happening. More trades happening. Holy crap. Let me refresh this and see all the updated information. Giannis Antetokounmpo is headed to the Miami Heat for Tyler Hero, Kalel Ware, Jaime Jaquez, Calpris Yakusionis, 3 first-round picks. Woo! And Bobby Portis to the Miami Heat, of course, as well. So, wow. Okay, so there's a lot of things there. We'll talk about Ayo Dosunmu first. 5 years, 112. That is a good deal for Ayo. I suspected 4 years, 84 or something like that. So it's one more year. It's an extra $1.2 million a year. For me, it's a good trade. Long-term flexibility. Really good player. I think Ayo has a bright future in Minnesota, and that's $22 million. So then let's just say Minnesota's probably at around $184 million. Save $10 million in the Julius Randle trade and still have a $33 million trade exception. Or technically they saved $26 million, I think, because Ayo was making $7 last year. But that's what it's looking like. But Giannis Antetokounmpo is a Miami Heat, and oh my goodness, I know my Celtics friends are rejoicing right now because they're petrified of the idea of dealing Jaylen Brown. But holy crap, guys, everything's happening on Wilder Wolves right now. That's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you all so much for hopping on. All right, so got somebody who wants to go on the show momentarily. We're going to do that. But wow, guys. So Giannis is a Miami Heat. That is nuts. That is nuts. And I'm going to get a person on the show right now. I don't even know what's happening. Hey, what's going on, man?
Yo. How are you?
Man, a lot's going on right now. My feed
I'm baffled, man. I'm gonna have to spend like $100 on a new Giannis jersey.
No,
that
seriously.
I'm a bit like
God.
I'm wearing my Giannis jersey right now. In fact, that's insane.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Thought he was going to the Warriors. I'm not even gonna lie. I thought they had something going on under the curtain.
Yeah, it looked like Giannis was going to go to the Celtics, I thought.
Yeah.
And then the trade to Miami. So yeah,
That's
man,
insane.
a lot of stuff's going on right now.
That's insane. But everything is happening at once. I feel like nothing. It was like still water, and all of a sudden everything is going down. This is insane.
Yeah,
oh my gosh,
that's crazy. I mean, the trade for Randle, the Ayo signing, the Giannis trade, man, everything's been happening in the last hour and 25 minutes. Holy, what do you think about the Ayo Dosunmu signing?
I think I love him. He's incredible, great spark off the bench, but I think it's overpaying a little. But of course, I don't know what his other offers were. It might have been that's what we had to do to retain him.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. I think the Ayo thing, it's so funny because I feel like there's a lot of different perspectives on what Ayo Dosunmu is. I truly believe Minnesota views Ayo as a core player on this roster in the near future. So whether he starts, whether he doesn't, depending on what other future moves he makes, I do think that this is another indication that he is firmly in that core with Ant, Jaden, Nas, and Burring, according to reports, right? So there's a lot going on here, man. Yeah.
I'm a big Nas fan, so I'm happy that he might be able to get a starting role this year. That's great for him.
What do you want the Timberwolves to do next?
There's just so many directions you could go. And right now, I thought we were going to use Julius Randle as our trade chip for a better point guard, because I don't
Mhm.
know where we would go in free agency with that.
Yeah, it felt like Julius Randle was coming to an end, didn't it? I mean,
Yeah, it was one of those where I was like, gotta let go now. Might not have been the best thing. I still hold my ground that the Cat deal was good, in the
mhm.
fact of we would just have to pay him so much that team would have looked so much different.
Yeah, it would have completely ruined the fabric, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It would have been Ant and Cat and some guys on the $5 million contract.
yeah, I mean, Cat is great. I love Cat, but like you mentioned, when you have a supermax player next to a supermax player, the flexibility that your roster maintains, it's pretty minimal. And you lose Nas, you might lose other players. Nikhil walks, you
Yeah.
don't get any tangible replacement. You don't get Dante. And the Knicks won a championship with Cat in New York, of course, but they also had a pretty unique
Mm-hmm.
roster construction and also
Yeah.
financial construction. So there's also that, right? So
Like Jalen Brunson missed out on so much money, but paid off.
yeah, it paid off, man. Paid off. What do you predict Minnesota's next move is going to be before we move on to the next conversations?
Oh, I'm going to say, I think it's, again, I don't think we would trade. It has been in our past to just go bombshell, say we're doing everything. But I feel like we're going to make some more smaller free agency moves before anything big happens.
So do you think they're going to be aggressive in the draft tomorrow? What do you think? Do you think they'll be
Man,
more free agency heavy?
I hope. Again, I just changed my name back, but I love Kingston Flemings. I'm over here being like, it could happen. Could trade up to 7, but I don't think we're gonna move up in the draft if we just move down.
That'd be so funny. I mean, if Tim Connelly traded up to 7 for Darius Acuff, I think that would be a sign the guy's got guts, that he can whiff on Rob Dillingham and say, screw it, I'm going to go for another offensive 6'2" guard. That'd be pretty.
I mean, it also just sucks that Dante's injured. That was, I don't know. Yeah, just a lot going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, man. And we got so much conversation, man. First of all, I super appreciate you, man, for hopping on. And
Thanks.
super thanks for the support.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Have a good one, man. All right, that was our first guest. And I appreciate you, man, for hopping on. We have another guest hopping on as well to Wilder Wolves. Hey, what's up, man? How are you doing?
Good, Wilder. Crazy night already, huh?
Right? I mean, goodness, the Ayo signing, the Giannis trade, the Randle trade, all of it in the last hour. It's like, I want to go to sleep. I mean, can we wait till 8 a.m? But you know what? We'll take it, right?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, this is what we kind of live for after, the finals to finally get over with. And we were bounced in the second round this year. It sucks, when you have to wait. So what do you think this means now for the Celtics now that they're out of the running now? What do you think?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I thought it was almost a guaranteed Brown was going to get traded for Giannis, just because, like, why would you dangle a star of that magnitude in the media when he's already showcased historical frustration with being in trade rumors, right? And then nothing happens again. So is Brown going to get traded again? Where does he get traded? What's happening next? Shout out to Miami, man, right? Just for getting the deal done and not letting another superstar fall between their fingertips,
Absolutely. And they gave up a haul too for him. So, that team is gutted in a sense. And, Dare, you don't ever pray for it, but with Giannis's injury history, that's one of the reasons why I'm glad we didn't pursue this ultimately, because we have Ant for the next 3 years. If that happens, do you lose Giannis for 1 or 1.5 years out of that time frame? That's a risk that you just can't take almost in our position with our timeline. And especially if that means losing Jaden too. So, interestingly, though, with Ayo getting his bag now, we still have the TPE to use as well too. So a trade for, a good player could still be had. But I'm curious as to, dare I say, a LeBron James signing. I've never been a fan, but given Nas starting at the 4, he kind of seems like he fills a need at the backup position, and he could even possibly start when Nas needs a break too. Even getting into that role. What do you think?
I love that thought. I really do. I think all these scenarios, like we have to think about them, right? Because Tim Connelly is constructing at least 100 scenarios and trying to break down his idealistic top couple options, right? And it's often with him, it's not something you think about. So when you think about a guy like LeBron James, I mean, if LeBron was willing to come to Minnesota, I mean, I know he's 41, but there's playmaking that he clearly would add to this team, and there's clearly leadership he would add to this team. So
And like I said, I'm not a fan at all, but the fit on this team and just what pedigree of championship stuff that he still is looking for, what he wants, kind of fits our trajectory of what we're looking to do right now. So that's the only reason why I'm leaning towards it. But like, and also like with Gobert, now that we didn't truly get like a player back in the Randall trade, which I was hoping for, you're almost kind of forced to keep Gobert now. Like I have a hard time seeing that we were going to trade both of them this offseason. It was going to be one or the other, and Randall's now gone. So
yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I would say that Minnesota with the Randall Gobert thing, I still wouldn't rule out that Rudy Gobert got traded. I don't think that's impossible still. I still think that this deal is a move for another deal. And obviously the Ayo Dosunmu extension was part of it. But like everybody's talking about, right? That big trade exception, what could they do with that on top of something else? Could Minnesota get Jaylen Brown, right? So that's the fascinating thing right now. I would agree it's unlikely Rudy Gobert gets traded, and it would be gutsy to trade him when he's literally the fabric of your defense. But
correct.
Tim Connelly is not afraid.
And expand on the Jaylen Brown idea trade. Like, how does that look with the TPE exactly? Is that Boston just giving up? Or is this a part of a 3-team trade? And who else gets in that type of mix? Or does it pivot and you're going after like a Kevin Durant type of thing?
Can you repeat that question? Sorry, man. It broke up for a quick second.
Yeah. So like when we were talking about using the TPE for Jaylen Brown, is that like saying Boston's just giving up? Or does that morph into a 3-team trade? Or do you go the reverse pivot with going after Kevin Durant or Kawhi at that point with it?
Yeah, I would be shocked if Boston tried to just get a trade exception, a deal for Randall, right? Like similar reason with Minnesota where we're all looking at it like, really? We just saved $33 million. That's it? That's all we're doing? It has to be moved for another move, right? And I feel like that trade exception has to be part of a bigger, more complex deal. And if Jaylen Brown was a part of the answer, like you mentioned, I don't think Boston would be the team that would want that exception when you're trading the Scottie Pippen of the roster, right? So
Exactly.
it has to be a 3-team trade or something if that happened.
Exactly my thought. And
also, sorry, one more thing. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think trade exceptions, you can't like pile trade exceptions. So you can't do 33 million plus Dante and it's 45. I think you have to add that trade within 33 if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think that's how it usually goes, the trade exceptions.
yeah, I think you have to take back salary. You can't add salary to it within the trade. I think you're right on that. Yeah.
But maybe they can do like 33 million exception here, then trade somewhere else on a 3-team. Maybe, I'm not sure what the limitations are in that scenario if you're technically not stacking up. That's where maybe you can do 33 million somewhere else and then add Gobert and a 3-team. I'm not sure how that would work.
You could do multiple trades.
Yeah, you could do multiple trades, which is the same thing, right? As a 3-team trade technically. So yeah, I think it's really good brainstorming. And man, what do you think Minnesota does?
It's a great question. I mean, we were looking at having, pick 28. We brought in Phylon for a workout over the weekend and everything. So now having 33, it makes that, well, how are we doing that? And I liked what you said earlier. Do you use that the TPE to move up in the draft? Up to like 13 or 15 to one of these teams that doesn't want to pay a first round pick, like you were saying. I could see that as a move, but is Tim Connelly going to play a rookie at the end of the day? That's the only issue I see too.
Yeah, especially Chris Finch, right?
Yeah, Chris Finch. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking about the mid-first round, and maybe you can buy a first-round pick, and right if you make an expensive move in the near future, maybe it makes sense to buy on the rookie contracts. Like, I think that's what they try to do with Rob Dillingham, just get talented people for cheap. That didn't work out, so maybe they still believe in that philosophy. Who knows? But yeah, I think the trade exception trading up makes a lot of sense, or maybe it's potentially a bigger trade where in the deal you get a first round pick back, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So there's also that. Like, is the trade that you ultimately accomplish, is that mid first round pick or whatever, is that just a fraction of the deal?
Now, I was reading too that this deal can't be finalized until July 6th, but we have the draft tomorrow night. So is that pick already a part of that trade, or is this one of those things where we do the picking for them and then we consummate the trade later on July 6th?
Yeah, I feel like with most draft picks, it's very rare for there to be like a immediately approved trade in the draft. Usually it takes until that July 6th new league year approval for draft picks to happen. Can you correct me on this? Is this trade exception, is that immediately usable, or is that something you have to wait on? Did you hear that?
I don't know if we can immediately do anything because I think everything still has to wait till July 6th. So you can have moves in agreement.
Oh.
And then everything is, struck July 6th ultimately is what I think would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But let me raise you this question here. Nick Claxton got traded to the Bulls. If you were to trade Gobert, what type of center would you be looking at getting back in the league?
I think it's kind of funny because it might be a Nick Claxton type. Kind of a good starting center who doesn't necessarily, become a roadblock in Beringer's development, and also add flexibility to that. That would make a lot of sense. Or maybe just Rudy Gobert for a individual solid player and draft picks, something like that. Or you package multiple contracts plus Gobert to get a big player. I feel like those are the different formulas for a Gobert trade, in my opinion.
Sure. Is like you said at the start of this call with me, with Gobert, he's kind of part of that defensive identity of the Wolves overall. So by trading him, does that set us back? Are we, a team that can reach the second round without him? Because in that Denver series, my God, he locked down Joker. He looked like the best thing that ever walked this earth in that round. And then in the Spurs, everything just fell apart, So
yeah.
So you need these guys to play 82 games and get you into the playoffs. You can't just trade them away because they had one bad series against the Spurs. And I think Julius's problems were a lot deeper than that overall too. I think there were some locker room issues overall too. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there were some pretty interesting things potentially behind the scenes that we wouldn't firsthand see. But like you said, the Rudy Gobert aspect, it would be gutsy as hell to be confident enough to let go of Rudy Gobert's defensive floor. You are saying in that plus stealing Randle, the entire identity of the team is completely changing entirely. So that would be hard for sure.
And I've seen rumors of trades with Gobert and stuff. And the only thing that seems in the realm of a possibility is with Charlotte, where you can get some good players back. They have multiple draft picks that you can get back. You can kind of replenish that cupboard in these future years, and we still owe Utah. as well too still. So that's the other part that kind of sucks about wanting to trade Gobert, is that you're still paying for it.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I don't know what Minnesota is going to do relating to Gobert, man. Isn't that crazy for thinking there's a better chance Gobert gets traded than people think? I don't think it's going to happen, but like I think it could.
Does the Io signing tell you anything with it? Or does it just rule out guys like White from Boston?
Not necessarily. I always felt like Iowa was going to sign for this money. And who knows what's happening in the background? Did Minnesota say, like, there's a great chance you'll start or something like that? Is there any affiliation with Gobert, with, how the roster construction is going to be, the finances on that? I don't know. I still think Minnesota has the flexibility to make moves without going under the second apron, right? Especially with that trade exception. So are they willing to go over the first apron? If you're trying to win, you should be able to, right? So I think that's the other aspect to the formula for Minnesota in terms of what they're willing to spend on top of this. Because if they are willing to spend, they probably keep Gobert and continue, adding to this roster as well.
Agree. I agree. I think that's the direction they should go in. And the question is are there guys on the free agent market that are worth getting that would improve this team significantly?
Not Giannis anymore. But yeah, I mean, is Kyrie still possible? Is other names still possible? Is Derek White still possible? Who knows, right? I think I never expected Julius Randle to get traded to Minnesota in the first place. I never expected Rudy Gobert to get traded to Minnesota in the first place. So I feel like there has to be somebody who's of a decent magnitude that we're not thinking about. And I'm not sure who that person is, but I do feel like Minnesota, if I had to guess at this point in time, is going to stay aggressive. I don't think the Ayo thing is the final move of the offseason. So
yeah. I agree with that. And it's just, when we talk about trades, this traded player exception is the thing that opens this door of almost like unlimited possibilities in a way, where you can use that in so many different variations that now no longer are we having to gut our roster in order to obtain somebody else. Because I do like our current roster setup, and it's like, do you want to give up on Nas? Well, now he's your starting power forward. Do you want to give up on Terrence Shannon Jr.? Well, we just saw a great performance out of him in the playoffs. Like, these are things that I see in the future that if they stay here, we're going to have a great thing going ultimately. So you got to add to it. You can't subtract and add. But that TPE is that missing puzzle piece, perhaps. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I think that TPE is going to be used. And it better not be used for a giant bloat of nothing. Hopefully it is to add to this core rather than just be a transitional, take a step back, and it's just without Randle. I just think that's the nightmare scenario that I just don't foresee. I know people are freaking out about what if this is the move. I don't think this is. I think there's another move. So now the question, right, is what do they do next?
And it's not about maybe what they do next, but maybe it's about what other teams are trying to sell out almost, that you could obtain a good player for using that. I mean, you don't want to just take, salary on just to take salary on. You have to have some talent behind the body there. So what does that look like? Is that like Orlando wanting to get off of Jalen Suggs? Does that make sense here? I just don't know. So
yeah, he would be in that range, right? He's in that $31 million range. And, we could probably construct like a list of like the highest level players making in that $30 million range. A player I really like, and this just came to my head with the Toronto Raptors, I've always been a big Emmanuel Quickley fan. So I'm not sure if that would be the move that fans would love investing in, because it's not the best contract, but it is technically under that exception. And he's in a fantastic fit as well. So he's another guy I think can make a lot of sense.
That could be. I've seen the name floated out there before too. It could, but it's like, it seems like, is that the only move you make then? Is that roster complete? And lastly, I'll leave you with this here too. We re-signed Ayo. We got Bones. We got Mike Conley. And we got, who's the other guard? The guy who tore his Achilles.
Dante?
No, not. I'm sorry, not Dante, but is Jalen Smith? No. What's his name? He just played in the playoffs with us. He played a couple minutes here and there. Defensive MVP or defensive player of the year from college. He's an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, Jalen Clark.
Thank you, Jalen Clark.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Do we have the money now? Do we just re-sign these guys and call it a day? Or, where do these guys fit into the whole mix now? Because we have the money to spend, so you just run it back, or, do they make that bigger move?
They have the money to do that for sure. I mean, yeah, they're under the cap significantly now, or relatively to the Julius Randle, trade. So that's possible. I mean, they have that option. I just, for some reason, when you get knocked out the way they do at the end of the season, it just would be a really tough sell, I think, to certain people. Like, let's just run it back and subtract, arguably one of the 4 best players on the team, whether you like him or not, to just run it back and do nothing. So that's the only question I have. It feels pretty anti-Tim Connelly, in my opinion, doesn't it? I mean, it feels like if there's a lean in or lean out option, he always leans in.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
The only other thing I was going to mention too is sometimes it's not about what we are trying to do; it's what other teams have to do or can't do anymore. Like Oklahoma City, they just traded Aaron Wiggins away. Are they going to have to make more moves to get underneath the second apron and stay competitive and such like that? Will the Spurs make more moves? Are they going to move off of De'Aaron Fox? I mean, there's so many things that if those teams, trade those guys and whatever they get in return, are they lesser teams in a sense, but they had to shed the salary in order to meet, constraints. Are we better than them now in a sense when healthy?
Yeah, I think the Thunder have actually kind of hacked the system because they have all these unlimited first round picks to just kind of like start over the cycle of getting talented players for cheap to replace guys who developed under their, under their staffing, their environments. So I think the Thunder are a team that will probably ride the second apron era pretty well. But yeah, it's going to be something we're going to see around the league. Even the Knicks, they just won the title and they're not going to pay the second apron. They've already said that. So I think everybody's avoiding the second apron like the plague right now.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't manage and work a team in the current age of the NBA with those restrictions. It's just, it's terrible, like you just said. So I agree.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think the second apron league, we're definitely seeing like the Celtics, right? They had to get off of Holiday and other guys like that. And the KP as well. They started Kada this year, right? They're another team that was a product of the second apron as well. But in fairness to them, right, they knew they were going to be in the second apron. They just wanted to jump in that 1-year window when everybody else was selling so they can go all in and win a title, right? So if you ever do get in the second apron, you also have to be like super strategic on, is it worth doing it with all the limitations that come with it?
Well, and like when we were in the second apron, what is it? Is it our 2032 pick that's frozen?
Yep, our 32 picks frozen. I think the only picks they can trade right now, if I'm not mistaken, it's the 28 swap and the 33 first.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's gonna be fascinating, man. But it's been great having you on the show, man. Thanks for hopping
appreciate
on.
it. All right, take care. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you guys all for hopping on. This is hour 48 into this episode. We were live earlier today for an hour and a half, and we can get some more people on as well. This is a fun night, long day, man. But it's been really fun just seeing all the change, right? The Ayo Dosunmu signing, I think 5 years, 112. 212 would be a disaster. 112 is not too bad. I think that it is definitely an investment. It's a lot of money. I think it's more than a lot of people want to pay Ayo Dosunmu, but I truly believe that the version of Ayo Dosunmu we saw in the regular season last year is closer to what you're getting than, previously or in the playoffs. So I do think he's a great fit next to Anthony Edwards. I think locking him up, assuring that you're getting this asset instead of him following the trajectory of what happened with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, having him walk and missing on the Rob Dillingham draft pick. Minnesota couldn't afford to lose Ayo Dosunmu, and I think his agency and Ayo, I think they did a pretty good job maximizing the leverage they had over Minnesota, especially with the Dante DiVincenzo, unfortunate injury as well. So, it's a lot of money. I do think that he could be worth it. We also should be cognizant of that Minnesota, $20 million isn't the same as it used to be, right? It's not $20 million from 2018. It's about percentage of the cap. So he's getting less than 10% of the cap. Or wait, what is the number? It's probably 13%. It's $201 million is before the luxury tax, right? So $22 million. So it's around, I think, 10% on the top of my head. So it's not the same as it used to be when like Mikal Bridges signed 4 years, $92 million after his rookie extension. That was a lot closer to like $30 million. Like the Mikal Bridges $23 million deal after his rookie contract is closer to the Jalen Suggs deal today, right? So it's not and Jalen Suggs is making over $150 million over 5 years. So it's not necessarily the same as the old 20. It's like the new 15, I guess. So it's a big contract, but I think he's going to be worth it. I really do. So yeah, if you guys want to hop on the show, that was really fun having two guests, man. It's really fun to have you guys on this show, just building this Wilder Wolves community and getting people on, regardless of the time of the day. Whenever things happen, man, we show up right here. So I appreciate you guys for being a part of this. Relax, Connelly is cooking. It might just not be for next year, but the following year when OKC and San Antonio get burned by salary cap aprons like what happened to the Wolves last year. Yeah, I think Tim Connelly is up to something. Maybe he's more patient with it. Maybe he has something in the works. I personally think something else will happen, in my opinion. But, I guess we'll see what happens. And also, kind of throwing stuff at the wall, right? A little exhausted, so my thoughts might not sound the most coherent right now. But another thought I'm having is also, right, just the timing of the reports, right? Julius Randle gets traded. Less than an hour later, Ayo Dosunmu gets extended. I wonder how long the trade, everybody was aware of the trade happening. And also, another question I have is just, how long was the Ayo Dosunmu contract pretty firm? Like, we all knew this was happening. Because if it was happening before LeBaron Philon worked out on Saturday, or everybody had a good feel, then does that mean that there's another deal that includes a higher draft pick that could happen for Minnesota? So that's another thought that I have relating to, the timing of the reports, because there's no way Ayo Dosunmu just signed it, right, an hour after a trade happened and nobody knew it was happening. So, timing's everything. But, oh, man, I got my guy on, man. What's up, man?
What up, bro? How are you? A long time no talk, man. The last time we talked was before the playoffs, where we, what we thought would happen did not happen whatsoever. Actually, the opposite of it happened.
Yeah, that was fun when we were on, because for context, everybody, so we did a show together ranking playoff contenders, and I think I had the Spurs like 5.
And I had the Knicks very low as well. So, I mean, I'm right there with you, bro. I did not believe in them whatsoever. And being in the city for it and seeing it in person was like, dude, it was magical. It was like watching a dream or something. I still can't believe it. Like, I'm not even a real diehard Knicks fan like that. And they even got me to root for them. Like, it was awesome. It was awesome. But the Randle trade, man, I don't know. We got him for $5 million more than Nick Claxton. I can't really complain. Like, he's a floor raiser at the end of the day. I'm not going to sit here and cry about it. I'd rather have Julius Randle than Nick Claxton. The main thing for me is, why are you guys doing this? I know you guys just paid Ayo, and like, I guess that was the, what you guys were going for at the end of the day. I know a lot of people were throwing out, maybe they'll be a last minute Giannis contender. Maybe they'll go for John Morant, which, I mean, you got to be a psycho to actually think they were going to go out there and do this for John Morant. I mean, let's be real, guys. I don't know. Whoever brought that up, you're crazy. But I mean, how are you feeling, bro?
Man, honestly, right now I feel disheveled. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I mean, dude, like, I think we spent half of this episode trying to figure out like what in the world's going on. And I appreciate all the people keep me updated in the comments, because Minnesota, they freed up $33 million basically, right? More importantly to me, they got a $33 million trade exception, which can be used in other deals, right? You can't necessarily you can't like package 33 plus 12 for a $45 million player, but you could do something with that $33 million trade exception. So my thought is Minnesota has to have another thing in place. I don't think the plan is just lose Randle for nothing to save money for Ayo and then just go under luxury tax. That just, if you are serious about building around Anthony Edwards, that's just not good messaging to him. So
I would agree with that, but what would that secondary move be? What do you think? Like what just some names if you could throw off the top of your head.
Man, I don't know. Can they still pull off big trades? I mean,
that's what I'm wondering. Like someone just commented, go get Durant. Like, is that even doable? Like, I mean, that would definitely push them into the second apron now, right? Like, are they not already right there with the Ayo contract? What's the situation with that? I'm not very familiar with the Wolves cap situation. I have no idea.
So Minnesota before the trade, they were at around $195 million in cap space.
Okay.
On there. So they were about 6 below the luxury, 14 below the first, and another 26 below the second apron. So you trade So you trade Randle, you save 33 million, so you're down to 162, and Ayo's probably going to make 20 this year, right?
Yeah.
So that's about 182, and you still have 7 players to sign, and you're about 27 million or so below the first apron. So they can still do some stuff, I think. Now
it would take some serious like wizardry to pull off, I think, a superstar.
Yeah, and it might not even need to be a superstar. What if it's a mid-tier, like good player? Like what if I joked about like Emmanuel Quickly on the show, right? Get like multiple dynamic guards around Anthony Edwards in the rotation with like IQ and Ayo, and then you can have Nas start, and then you have, maybe not the most star power team on paper at this moment in time, but you have a lot of good players that would generate a lot more spacing around Ant, right? So that's another thought.
Are you generally disappointed that this is how it turned out with Karl Anthony Towns? That he's an NBA champion with the New York Knicks, and now at the end of the day, the guy that you guys traded for is gone for essentially nothing. Like that's how it reads on paper, right? Like I think that's how the history books will probably remember this whole ordeal with the Wolves and the Knicks and Karl Anthony Towns and that entire trade saga. Like, how are you feeling actually as a real fan, as a real Timberwolves fan? Like, what are your raw emotions towards that?
My raw emotions right now, I mean, of course you're happy for Cat winning the championship, but then also I think for me, I've always felt indifferent. And what I mean by that is I always knew like Cat was going to get traded, and I thought he ended up in a perfect situation that I'm not sure Minnesota could have put him in a championship context. So there's that, but also there's no way you can justify, Minnesota won this trade. I mean, they clearly lost the trade, and Cat's a great player and he deserves it. But I've always said you make a flexibility-based move. So when you make a flexibility-based move, it's about what your next move is. And right now on the surface, that's your next move, getting more flexibility. So now it's on the surface, it looks terrible, but then they double down on 2 flexibility moves off of that trade. So then the question is, what is that next move? If they just sat on their hands on this scenario after freeing flexibility, that would be a really, 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 really bad look. And that would be frustrating.
I agree. I like you just said, I think it depends on what they're going to do next year. In terms of the Nets side of it, like I said before, Randle, floor raiser, we saw him do this with the Knicks. That's why it's like life really comes at you full circle, man. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, basically 10 years ago now, where Julius Randle signed with the New York Knicks as the Nets were the ones trading for Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And we fast forward to now, the Knicks just won a championship. Julius Randle wasn't a part of it, and he's back in New York with the Brooklyn Nets. If that doesn't confirm to you that everything in life is somehow connected one way or another, I don't know what will. Now there's videos of Julius Randle's kid Kaiden or something like that, of them crying after the Nets destroyed the Knicks like years ago. And like he's coming back to New York, and the kid's friends are probably all Knicks fans. Meanwhile, his dad is going to be playing for the Nets. It's like such a, I mean, I don't know. I truly wonder how Julius Randle is feeling right now. I mean, I would assume he feels some type of way about how the whole saga went down with the New York Knicks. Like, he was beloved here. He's a huge reason, like a massive reason the Knicks got to the top of the hill. I mean, without him and like some of the tenacity and grit that he gave those early New York Knicks teams with Tom Thibodeau, I don't know if this team would have been able to get to where they are currently. So, I mean, it's just crazy New York sports lore. I mean, I'm going to remember this past month and a half like for the rest of my life, including this part of it, because it just, everything is so interwoven somehow. And it's just, I don't know. It's fun to watch. It's confusing for the Timberwolves, in my opinion. The Nets kind of have nothing to lose here, and Knicks fans are probably just laughing at both of us. So, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, they're laughing at both of us, that's for sure. And I mean, for the Nets, it's pretty easy. You guys don't have your pick, and even if you did, you guys would be, you know, dealing with the new lottery odds. So you kind of want to be medium bad anyway. So get a guy like Randle, just a floor raiser like that makes more sense.
The floor raiser from 20 wins to 30 wins, which I guess with these new flattened lottery odds puts you in a better spot. I mean, I assume that's how it works, right? Like, you got to be closer to the end of the play-in. So, I mean,
4 to 10 is like where you get your meat, I guess, like that range.
Yeah. So, I mean, man, that's it. That's all I got, Wilder. Thank you for having me on, bro.
Man.
Yeah. Good luck to your Wolves. Good luck to the Nets, I guess. And let's go Knicks. Let's go New York basketball, man. Both, yeah, I can't even hate on them anymore, man. It's awesome. But I'll catch you, Wilder. Yo, appreciate you. Catch you soon.
Of course, man. Take care.
Later.
I saw a comment, somebody asking how to get on the show. Here's the link to hop on the show, and you guys can give your takes on the deal. I mean, right now, I understand why, in an outside perspective, it would be confusing why Minnesota would make this deal, you know, trading back and getting nothing back. But as we talked about, the flexibility is pretty significant with that trade exception. And also, you know, now when you consider the Ayo situation, that makes sense. So to me, this adds up. They wanted to bring back Ayo, and there has to be another move on the table. And I think what that move is, I think things will start making more sense, because Minnesota, I always go back to like when they did the Allen Crabbe trade. And then after that, guys, remember they did the like Robert Covington trade and got like Malik Beasley and all these stuff. And they started building up these assets. And then, right. And then ultimately Minnesota landed D'Angelo Russell at the end of all of it, right? Minnesota, sometimes you make a deal that leads to another deal, that leads to another deal. And technically the Robert Covington thing was also just Robert Covington was a very valuable asset at the time. But Minnesota's made flexibility-based moves before for other moves. And usually when they look incomplete, it's because they are. And this deal just looks incomplete. Flexibility moves are about being able to make more moves. And if you're a good basketball team, usually you take advantage of that flexibility quicker. So that's kind of the thing with what I think Minnesota is doing right now. And we can go back, like, honestly, I'm getting a little sleepy on the Karl Anthony Towns, like, hindsight trade. It happened. And I love Cad, and I'm happy he won it all. It happened, you know, it happened. And I've always said it's about Minnesota's next moves. And technically this trade is the next move, but this trade is also the next move, in my opinion, for the next move. So I suppose we double down on what the next move is following this. And I think we'll know more. And yeah, it's going to be fascinating. I like the Ayo Dosunmu extension. That sounds about right. I thought he was going to be worth around 20-ish. At one point, I was worried he was going to be worth around $25 million. So 22.4 a year on average. That sounds okay. You know, I think it's a big win. Minnesota was able to lock in Ayo Dosunmu for the duration in which they did, because, you know, sometimes if you sign a player to a a little above the mid-level. They might want 3 years, maybe 4 if you're lucky. So getting him on 5 years, and now you have Reid for 4 more. You have Jaden for a few more. Plus, Jaden McDaniels is extension eligible this summer. I think he's extension eligible for 2 years, 87. And now you got Ants. So now you have like a core of guys who are good basketball players who you are guaranteed to have in the future. And now Giannis Antetokounmpo is on the Miami Heat. That chapter's closed. We don't have to talk about Giannis. We don't have to talk about Jaden McDaniels rumors. We don't have to talk about that. This feels like that core is going to carry into next year. And now the big question is, what is the next move Minnesota makes to better complement that core in the short term as well as the long term, right? So, yeah, it's going to be very fascinating. And this is another comment I like. Is Fred VanVleet an interesting idea for you guys? I like Fred VanVleet. I like him a lot. Obviously, the Achilles injuries is too bad. Was it an Achilles or an ACL? It was one of the two. A significant lower body injury was unfortunate, but he's another guy. He's a leader. He can shoot. He defends. You wish he was more efficient inside the three-point line, but he can play. Getting more maturity in this locker room, I do think, is going to be a priority. And I think you move off of Randle and, the optics there weren't perfect at the end. And then now we'll see what they do next. I think Minnesota needs more ball handling, and they need a little more, leadership to help Minnesota's main players, evolve into the next phases of their careers. So it's going to be very interesting. And I'm going to go and look through the last few comments before we end the show. It's been a great day of episodes, guys. Man, I think we've done almost 4 hours of episodes today. So that's definitely a record. So thank you all so much for hopping in. But like I said, if you guys want to hop on Wilder Wolves one more time, you guys can hop on with this link. So yeah, definitely tune in. And I'm going through all the comments that have been in the chat throughout the episode. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be really fascinating what happens in the near future. Hopefully Anthony Edwards is going to have the next right move in the very near future, and we can go into the offseason, into July, into August, and know exactly what Minnesota is going to be like next year. That'd be super nice, as we all know. I think Ayo starts this season too. I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible. Very possible. Reid!
What's up, Nas?
I love
Bro.
it, man. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you?
Doing good, man. It's a little sleepy, but you know what? Timberwolves adrenaline
Definitely
keeps
tired.
awake.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say I found your show last night, and I've been like addicted. I've been watching it like 5 or so hours. It's been pretty great. And when the news dropped, I was like, oh, he's gonna go live. This is awesome. I was pretty excited. Yeah.
That means a lot, man. Thank you. Really appreciate
Yeah, for sure. I was just on Twitter and I saw Jaden got like recorded, and like someone came up to him and was like, bro, did you see Julius just got traded? He's like, what? He's like, yeah, to the Nets. He's like, oh, bro, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, that's my reaction too.
I feel like Jaden McDaniels, if I had to predict how he would react to the trade, I think that's exactly how
exactly. I mean, the dude never shows much emotion, obviously. Like that's what's like he's known for, but like, I mean, and obviously you got to be like classy when you're talking about a guy like that, but I think like internally, I think Jaden's probably one of the like main guys who was most fed up with Julius last season, so I think he was probably pretty happy to see him go.
We saw those quotes at the end of the season, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yes. How are you feeling about the team right now?
I mean, I'm pretty excited, honestly. With the rebrand and everything, it feels like a fresh start. I mean, if we're gonna move pieces this offseason, I feel like now is the time, and you got to capitalize on Ant being, still young. I mean, the dude's so good; he's gonna have a long prime. I mean, he's one of the best players that's ever been in the league. But you really have to capitalize on him while he's in Minnesota, because with how the NBA is, we don't know how long that's gonna be. So I definitely want to be aggressive, and I like what Tim's doing. I definitely don't disagree with the move tonight. Like, I think a lot of people are mad about it, and maybe rightfully so, but at the same time, I mean, you're freeing up space to be able to make moves.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I I think it's fair to just react on the surface and say, like, this trade looks terrible. You're trading
Right.
a former All-Star for literally nothing, minus 5 picks. That looks
Mhm.
bad.
Right.
But that's why it's like, I think this trade should have us be just more, like, fascinated because there's no way
Yeah.
that's the trade. If this is
Right.
the trade, everybody in the comments is fully justified to call me an idiot. But I don't think that's what this is, man. I
Me
think this
too,
is
bro.
just another the Ayo signing was one thing. I felt like we all knew that was going to happen. It happened way
Right.
quicker than I thought, frankly, and it looks like it's probably unofficial. They'll sign it
That
close
was
to the year.
nuts how quick they got that out. I mean, it was exciting too. I love Io. The twin turbos, like we need to bring Bones back. I mean, from a team success standpoint, maybe there's other moves that you can make, but like obviously wearing the Nas jersey, I think a lot of Minnesota fans care more about the personalities and the product that we put on the court. Like an equal amount to like the team's success. Like there's like Io and Bones and Nas and Jaden are such lovable players that like you almost have to keep them around. So it's good to see a guy like Io get his money and like be here long term. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and you like you said, you just like you accumulate all of the pieces, right? It's like
Right.
Nas Reid has 4 more years left on his deal. Jaden is extension eligible, and it still has a few years. Anthony Edwards, Io has 5, right? So you can
Hmm.
kind of see that group of players long term as key pieces as they build into Anthony Edwards' prime. Not the bare minimum, it's flexibility when you have good players on decent tradable contracts, right?
Right.
So personality wise, it's great. These guys, they're fast, they're dynamic, they're athletic. So now it's going to be fascinating when you also switch Randle to Nas, right? You have him
Hmm.
spacing the floor. And now I think the court's going to look so different next year. I'm not
I
saying,
mean, yeah, I totally agree with you.
yeah, it's like, is it going to be better or worse? We'll see with the next move. But
Right.
I do think we can, with confidence, now say that it's just you're going to have spacing at the 4 position again, like you did with Cat. And now
Hmm.
you're going to have probably another move where you have guards, and there's will be an emphasis more on that, guard-oriented offense that Minnesota, frankly, has never had
Right.
since they thought D'Angelo Russell was good.
I mean, it'll at the very least be different, and I think like the sentiment that a lot of Wolves fans had was that you're just tired of seeing Julius Randle play basketball. I mean,
Mhm.
like when he's playing well, he's obviously an elite, borderline all-star player, but like I was scrolling through Twitter and I'm like, oh, this is kind of sad. Like this is a dude that like he's likable other than his effort issues. And then I saw like a clip of him backing down someone in the paint against the Spurs in like game 2 and taking some horrible like midi fade that like clanked off the rim. I'm like, okay, it's it's fine. I'm not that upset about it anymore.
It's like that ex that you're like, man, I miss her. She was beautiful
Yeah,
and she was smart.
exactly. But
And then you see the picture of the guy she cheated on you with, and
yeah,
you're like, oh God, she was
go
terrible.
ahead, bro.
Okay.
You can leave.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Exactly.
I think it was time. It was time to this is the time. I mean, 2 years,
Hmm.
and there was some good with Randall, there was, and I don't think we should lose sight of that, but it's also true that the best version of this team wasn't going to be with him. It wasn't the right fit. We tried
Yeah.
to see what more shot creation in the front court on ball would do with Anthony Edwards, and it just presented other issues. And now we just have to see, like, how does Minnesota, one, upgrade the roster, but number two, what type of identity that they're going to continue building with that. And
Hmm.
I do think going from Randall to Nas at power forward is a big identity shift in that way too.
Yeah.
Just the spacing. I'm so excited to watch that.
It's gonna be more. It'll be more fun basketball. It will be. I'm confident in that.
Yeah, no doubt, man. What do you think they're gonna do next? If you had to make a wild, just does a stick in the wall prediction?
Jaylen Brown's getting traded to a team that's ready to take the next jump, and I think a part of that trade is Minnesota sending Rudy to Boston for Derek White. That's my prediction. That's my bold prediction.
So Boston completely blows it up.
I think so. I think at this point, locker room wise, I mean, you just struck out on Giannis. I mean, obviously they still have Jason Tatum, but I think Jaylen Brown's as good as gone. I mean, you can't do that to a guy, especially a guy of his caliber. Like go out and say, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go look and see what we can get for you on the market." Like if I was him, I'd be pissed. Like I would want out. So I think it would be a mutually beneficial decision to move on from him this offseason.
We saw with Randle in January. We saw how affected Randle was being in Giannis trade discussions.
Exactly.
Can you imagine Jaylen Brown second time around after Kevin Durant years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I would be honored to like be in trade conversations for Kevin Durant or Giannis. But like if you see a guy like Julius, who's obviously a worse player than Jaylen Brown, take that personally when he's in trade rumors, I can't even imagine what's going through Jaylen Brown's head because I mean you've probably put yourself up on like a mental pedestal and you're thinking like I'm a legit number one scoring option on a team that's been to an NBA championship, when Tatum's been unhealthy or unreliable or whatever, he's been a superstar player. So, I mean, it's definitely a weird situation there.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think there's going to be some, cultural dynamics that
Yeah.
are going to be tough to navigate going this far. And also, like, even Minnesota probably was in the Giannis mix for a bit, and they still would throw reports out like Jaden's untouchable, and Jaden, we would only trade him for Jokic, right?
Right.
And they didn't do any of that for Brown. There was very little like image management, which
Mhm.
sometimes you do with media reports.
Right.
And yeah, that was tough. That was tough.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, it's gonna be fascinating, man. And dude, I appreciate you, man, for
Oh yeah, I
covering
appreciate
the
you.
show, man. Hopefully you stick around for
Yeah,
future episodes and
for
episode
sure.
appearances, man. Thank you, man.
Yep, appreciate you. Have a good rest of your night.
You as well, man. Thank you.
See ya.
And now we'll also tap into the Giannis Antetokounmpo talk because I know a lot of us are talking about Giannis as well in the comments. I mean, it's obvious you can't avoid it, right? Minnesota doesn't get Giannis, and I know we weren't expecting that at the end, but I mean, how long was Giannis in the back of our minds to some sort of extent, whether we wanted him or we didn't want him? It was pretty massive how much he remained somewhat lurking in Timberwolves rumors and conversations. So that's over. And for many of us, it's just thank God it's over. We know resolution. We can move forward and know what our core looks like. That's a win, right? So that's great. And I mean, Giannis of the Miami Heat. I want to look at this trade package again because it is Giannis Antetokounmpo for Tyler Hero, Khalil Ware, Jaime Jaquez, 3 first-round picks, including the 13th this year, 1 swap, and 1 second rounder. That's a haul. That's a great package for Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think, at this point of his career. And you know what? I think Miami was in a spot where they couldn't strike out on another star, right? They just couldn't. They've been missing a lot lately. They recently missed a Donovan Mitchell, and now if they miss with this, Kevin Durant, all that stuff, that would have just been a really bad look, especially for Pat Riley and how firm the reputation has been in that Miami front office. I've joked they've been the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NBA because they've been good for a long time, kind of riding off of their reputation of winning championships, but haven't been a championship team in a while. But now we know they got Giannis. So now we'll see what they do with that. And I bet they bring back Norman Powell. Maybe Minnesota can try to get in on a Norman Powell sweepstakes if they are taking a free agency-based approach. But like I said, I think Minnesota is going to do something via trade still. Like this comment adds, this all adds up. We're nowhere near done. I don't think Minnesota's anywhere near done. And when Minnesota makes that next trade, you guys know what we'll be doing here. We'll be going live right away and breaking it down all the way through as it happens live in real time. It's an absolute blast. But yeah, guys, so many things have happened in this episode. The trade, Randle gets dumped, Ayo gets signed, Giannis gets traded, guys. I mean, it's been a big deal what's happened on this episode. And $33 million trade exception, it keeps the window open. It keeps the window open. So Minnesota's at a fascinating spot. It's kind of peaceful that now we know what's happening with Giannis. That is over. We can move on. We know we're getting Ayo. A lot of mystery has been resolved this episode. And now there's more mysteries coming up. What does Minnesota do with this flexibility? Because now they have more flexibility than they have had in years. And there's no way, in my opinion, they don't do something with that trade exception and with that increased cap space. And, you know, another conversation. I plan on going live tomorrow night if Minnesota makes a draft pick. My plan is the next time Minnesota makes a move, I'll go live. But if they don't go live, if they don't do anything in the draft tomorrow and no other news happens, I might not go live. But the next time they make a move, I will surely go live. So, yeah, guys, whenever the Timberwolves make a move, we'll be here. We will be here. So we gotta, you know, stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. It's not done. Julius Randle, the trade happened. The Julius Randle era, the Julius Randle saga, it is over. We are moving on to the next moves for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I think we'll have a better idea on how good or terrible that move was based off the next trade. So thank you all so much. 2 hours and 20 minutes into this episode. Wild. Was not expecting anything to happen tonight, but it did. I appreciate you guys for all the support. This has been awesome. Make sure to hop on for the next live, for the next big move. This is Wilder Wolves Hall of Fame Mode Fandom.